Well, hi everyone, and welcome back to Zandvoort for qualifying for races 2 and 3 for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. And the fastest time of Quali 1, of course, sets the grid for race 1. But when it comes to Quali 2, which sets the grid for race 2, the fastest time, Quali 2, sets the grid. And then the second fastest time of Quali 2 sets the grid for race 3, because we have 2 more FIA Formula 3 European Championship races to come across this weekend. Race 2 tomorrow, race 3 tomorrow. And there the cars all lined up with spectators lined up as well to enjoy the scintillating action from the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. And qualifying is about to get underway. So I love qualifying sessions because they drive such drama towards the end of the session. And alongside me is motorsport journalist Leo Gorman. And I'm saying there that, you know, generally speaking, unless the weather throws a curved ball as it did with DTM qualifying, but generally speaking, the drama reaches a crescendo towards the end of the session as everyone chases for that final fastest lap, Lee. Absolutely.
The drivers are going to get into a rhythm. As you see at the moment, the cars are streaming on circuit. These 20-minute qualifying sessions will effectively, we'll see them run in 2 distinct orders.
Right.
Firstly, the guys are going to go out, they're going to get the banker laps in, the first set of runs. It's not just getting a banker lap in, it's also getting an idea of how the circuit feels now, as opposed to, say, when they raced at 11 o'clock this morning, because the circuit has changed. We have had just had a DTM race. And we had a rain shower, heavy rain shower earlier on, so the track has changed feel. So they're putting in the banker laps, they're getting on the field for the circuit, and then they will come in, debrief momentarily, probably change tyres, and some will actually maybe keep tyres depending, then go back out again. And this is when it becomes critical, because as you just mentioned, in this qualifying session, it's not like Formula 3 European Championship, it's not like any of these other categories that have reverse grid races or any of that kind of unnecessary, messy nonsense.
Well described, messy nonsense.
You got to set 2 fast laps in this, because it's not just setting the grid for race 2, it's setting the grid for race 3 as well. So you actually need 2 clear runs in your second batch of laps to actually set the time. 2 times for 2 grids tomorrow. How
critical is it? Pedro Piquet was the first one out when the lights went green. He was queued up in the pit lane. Joey Mawson the second one out. Pedro Piquet surely has an advantage in that he's the first one out running, therefore he's got completely clear track ahead of him. And both he and Joey Mawson, surely by virtue of being out very, very quickly, they're going to have an advantage, aren't they?
To a small degree. I mean, whatever laps they said now are probably going to be transcended by what comes later on anyway. But you are right in one sense. This is actually giving them a feel of how the car's handling in clean air.
Yes.
And that's where the advantage is. It's what you learn now. Okay, the laps we set now aren't really going to make a huge amount of difference in, say, 10 minutes' time. But what they learn now can be applied in 10-15 minutes' time when they are actually setting their quickest laps. And as we see, Piquet, he said
well, his first sector, which was best of everyone initially, because of course he was the first one through sector 1, that's already been beaten by someone because it goes from purple to green. Now let me explain in case you don't know. Green means that it's a personal best in that sector. Purple means it's the best of anyone.
Absolutely, it's actually Callum Milot who is the fastest across sectors 1 and 2 at the moment, as Piquet puts in a 1 minute 32.0. That's immediately beaten by teammate Joey Mawson by 3 tenths. We're going to see these lap times
come down. And now Harrison Newey, if I may say.
And yeah, Newey's put in a very good lap there. We're going to see these laps come down quite significantly before the end of this session. We'll probably lob 2 or 3 or 4 seconds off it.
At the moment, Newey is the fastest, 1:31.481. Incidentally, as I mentioned in the programme for race 1, I did say that I would try and chase down Harry and ascertain how well he did in his A-levels. And congratulations, Harry. Although he was less than enthusiastic when speaking to me and just said, when I said, how did you do? He said, adequate. Pass.
Actually, you do raise an interesting point, Dave, because as you say about Harry getting his A-levels, and this is to emphasise the point that these are actually very young guys. Yes. They're actually very young drivers. These are not the finished product that we see in DTM or we see in Formula 1 or the World Endurance Championship. These are drivers who are very much in the beginnings of their career. They're 17, 18, 19 years old. I think 95% of the field is in that kind of bracket. So they're young guys. They're still learning about motorsport. They're still developing as racing drivers and as people. And it's the things like we forget sometimes. These guys are still doing school.
But you make a fair point, but then on the other hand, you have situations like as Harrison Newey will cross the timing line now. Where's this going to put him? P1, 1:29.609. You make that point, but then you see just how mature these young guys have to be. For example, it was just a matter of days ago that Lando Norris was testing a Formula One car at Hungaroring.
And something mentioned at the end of race 1 today.
As was Nikita Mazepin, has to be said.
Yeah, he was actually. Yeah, he was in the Force India, wasn't he? So. As we mentioned earlier on, at the end of race 1, that maturity also lends itself to when Lando won the race earlier on. And it was a kind of, yes, he celebrated the fact, yes, he enjoyed the fact that he won the race, but there was also a kind of a matter-of-fact kind of aspect to it. He's banked it, he's done it, he's going to do it. They have the debrief with the engineers, which has happened in the meantime, and then he's going to move on, next step, next target, keep notching him up until the final goal of the European Championship is potentially taken. Of course, it's not just Norris in it. There's Joel Eriksson there. You got Maxi Gunther. Two guys who have a couple of years on him, both in terms of age and experience. And that just shows again they're two highly rated guys. And Callum Ilott, fourth in the championship, also in his third year. And with a couple of years on Norris in terms of age as well. They're three guys who were actually very, very highly rated, who thought will do very well in professional motorsport or even Formula One. And Gunther and Ericsson are also juniors in Mercedes and BMW respectively, and that actually emphasises just how much of a step up Norris's performances have been this year in this championship.
Okay, the order at the moment is Callum Ilott is fastest with a 1:28.814. He's the only driver in the 28s at the moment. Then is Pedro Piquet, 1:29.021. Maximilian Gunther is P3 at the moment with Jihan Daravala, P5 now, because Lando Norris immediately goes out and puts it a 1:29.115, so that gives him P3. So it's Ilott, Piquet, Norris, Gunther, Daravala, Raffaron. Harrison Newey is P7. Ferdinand Habsburg P8, Joey Mawson P9, and a big mention for the guy that's P10, David Beckman in car number 55. And the reason I mention that is because he had a really rather turbulent start to the weekend, didn't he, Lee?
Oh, did he have a crash and a half in the race 1? And it was such a slow speed incident, but effectively at the beginning of race 1 earlier on today, Guan Yu Zhou outbraked himself going into turn 1, ran into the side of Raffaran, who then ran into the side of Mawson, and Mawson went off into the gravel trap, but just Beckman went off into the gravel trap and just pitched it at such an angle that the car actually flipped over onto its lid. We had the safety car out for, it was 10-12 minutes, Dave, or something like that. Because it's not like the old days. You can't just tip the car over and
goodness no.
And the driver just get the driver to jump back out. You have to carefully turn the car over, just bit by bit by bit, and very carefully take the driver out, because you've got to be aware of potential injuries that may not necessarily immediately be obvious.
And the thing is, what we should make mention of is the fact that just a few short hours ago, that car was on its roll hoop.
Yeah.
And now it's out there and currently qualifies P10. That gives you some indication of the safety integrity of these cars.
Yeah, they had to do a lot of work in the meantime on that to clean it up, to get all the bits that need to be replaced, and they sent it back out for this qualifying session. So great job there by the Van Amersfoort team. What we're seeing now, by the way, is, as I mentioned a few moments ago, everyone will go out for their initial laps, their first run. They've done one out lap, 2 fast laps where they've set a time, and 1 in lap, and that's effectively across the board, as we see. And now drivers, they've had deliberation with their engineers briefly, maybe had a fresh set of tyres, being given new information by the teams, by the engineers, and they're being let out again. to set their next run in this qualifying session.
And of course, whilst this is all going on, the clock is counting down. We have 10.5 minutes or thereabouts of this session left. And I remind you that this is critical because it sets the grid for races 2 and races 3. The fastest time sets the grid for race 2. The second fastest time sets the grid for race 3 as we watch Ferdinand Habsburg, who is currently P8 with a 1:29.710. So Ferdinand Habsburg then out for the second part of this qualifying session for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, and weaving from side to side to generate some temperature into those tyres, which is critical. He's using this as a warm-up lap before really going for it, and crucially Ferdinand Habsburg is going to have clean air ahead of him.
And also Habsburg as well. He's had a good run of results recently. He won race 2 at Spa several weeks ago, and he was on the front grid, the front row for race 1 today. So he's a driver who started the season slowly, and it's kind of coming to him. Formula 3 is coming to him a small bit. He ended up finishing 4th today. He had a bit of a ding-dong battle with Callum Eilert in race 1 today, with some robust defending, it must be said, on Habsburg's part. But it's what you do. It's what you do. You know?
Absolutely. He's continuing to warm up. He was weaving from side to side and continues to weave from side to side as he continues to warm up. The Carlin driver, Ferdinand Habsburg, then at the moment the fastest time is Callum Eilert, who's the only one that set a sub 1:29 time at 1:28.814.
Meanwhile, two drivers who've not followed the form have actually been Makino and Mazepin, who are only out on circuit at the moment. Mazepin's not set a time as of yet. As you see, Jake Hughes go to the top of the order with a 1:28.756. Makino's just put in a time of 1:43.213, which is
way off,
but he's only actually just getting his initial laps in. So, but we'll see them get up to speed very shortly as well. As Jake Hughes, he's slowing down this lap, and this is the format we're going to see: fast lap. Get your fast sectors in, slow down, let the tyres breathe a little more, build up to the next lap, because you're not going to see fast lap, fast lap, fast lap, fast lap. That doesn't make sense, because you'll just your tyres simply won't last. You'll not get a clean enough run. Sometimes you just need to go fast lap, then kind of cool it, and then bring it back up the speed and then go again. And this is what Jake Hughes is doing at the moment as the camera goes to Maxi Gunther in the newly liveried.
Yes, Maximilian Gunther now with the livery of the BWT colours, all pink for Maximilian Gunther. And
he tells me he's not getting the pink race suit until Nürburgring.
We await that. Maximilian Gunther, currently 5th fastest with a 1:29.267. So the Prema Power Team driver, not in the familiar Prema Power Team colours now, as he has that new magnesium-fueled mineral water logo all over the car, which means it's pink, and Lee has revealed that the overalls will be a similar colour come Nürburgring. I rather think not. 39.155 through Sector 1. Quickest through Sector 1 at the moment, I think, is Callum Eilert with a 39.107. Callum Eilert, who's currently 2nd fastest. Jake Hughes is the quickest with a 1:28.756. But we see purple sectors begin to fly up onto our timing screen as we reach the final 7 minutes of this qualifying session. And Maximilian Gunther then through the 2nd sector does a better than anyone with a 22.789. So Maximilian Gunther on an absolute charge here. Setting the fastest lap time he hopes that will give him potentially P1 for race number 2. Here he goes then, ready to cross the timing line. Maximilian Gunther does go from P6 to P1, and that was with a relatively shabby final sector, may I say.
Yeah, he came out with the final sector quite off the pace there, and I don't know whether he feels he made a mistake later on in the lap, but it's 28.6. It's a banker lap in for the moment.
9 1/1000ths of a second slower was Ferdinand Habsburg. He's P2. Ralph Aron is P3. Then it's Jake Hughes, Callum Eilert, Pedro PK, Nikita Mazepin P7, Lando Norris P8. Joel Eriksson is P9, and P10 is Jihan Daravala. This is Callum Eilert then. Sector 1, supreme. Sector 2, less so.
No, he's dropped a couple of seconds in the middle sector. So I think an ideal time for the middle sector is in around the late 22s as a standard one, which is what Jake Hughes, 22.9. maybe to a 22.5 has been ideal sector. That is...
He's not improved,
But actually, no, yeah, that's an improvement there. That is, I think he's taken the 10th off his previous best.
Ferdinand Habsburg then goes for another round, 39.051 in Sector 1 then, which is a personal best. PB in Sector 2 as well, a 22.780. Ferdinand Habsburg is currently third fastest because Guan Yu Zhu has gone quicker than anyone with a 1:28.636. Great lap from Guan Yu Zhu. Here comes Maximilian Gunter to cross the timing beam now and break that. And it's P1 once again, 1:28.381. Here comes Ferdinand Habsburg. And Ferdinand Habsburg goes P1 now with a brilliant third sector. It's a 1:28.349. And Lando Norris now, this could be P1. It is P1. Provisionally, a 1:28.271 from Lando Norris, who doesn't take thousandths and 100ths out. He takes tenths, doesn't he?
Absolutely, he is. We're now really seeing the times coming down as Guan Yu Zhu's on to a personal best. There's a yellow flag out. I wonder if someone's gone off somewhere and rejoined.
Turns 8-9, yes,
and
it's Jihan Daravala. Now the front wing is off the car. Now
and it's pointing the wrong way.
It's pointed the wrong way. Now this is going to compromise this. Oh, look at that!
Oh my word, that is quite a ride from Daravala, and hits the barrier as well. If the session wasn't over for the fact he's gone off and damaged the floor and ripped the front wing, it's definitely finished now that he's actually banged.
Red flagged. So what we have then is Lando Norris with his 1:28.271. No one had the opportunity to come back at that, did they?
No, and Norris, we were actually seeing some green sectors on that lap when Daravala had his off. Unfortunately for Norris, so far, he's only actually set one fast lap as it stands. So he hasn't really set a second quickest lap yet to actually for race 3.
Race 3.
And Eilert did improve slightly with a 28.8. But again, it wasn't perfect sectors. He's still dropping time in the final sector. But that puts him P9 at the moment. If Daravala was P8, he's not going to have an opportunity to improve.
So the question is now, the clock has been stopped at 4:26, which was all the time that was remaining. Surely, I'm wondering whether that session will not be restarted with that little amount of time left on the clock.
It can be restarted. They could probably get in maybe two fast laps.
It's only going to be
two fast laps. So it depends entirely as how long they're going to be with this red flag. Obviously, because there are strict time limitations to this weekend.
Lots of other things on the schedule, aren't there?
Yeah, lots of other things going on. Even today, there was a running order going on at the evening. And I tell you, if you're a fan at the circuit here at Zandvoort, you've got plenty of action going on till 6:30 in the evening, which is very, very good. Norris yet not set the a second fastest lap as we see him on screen here.
So the Carlin driver, Lando Norris, then is fastest with a 1:28.271.
Habsburg again.
Habsburg P2 has done some great qualifying this weekend as Ferdinand Habsburg.
Yeah, Habsburg's done two decent laps so far as well.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, because we have Norris and Habsburg and Gunther set those fast laps in the 28.2s, 28.3s, and everything down then is the 28.6s, and this is actually if the qualifying doesn't restart, because everyone else's laps are kind of much slower than that. No one's kind of slotted in. So Habsburg, for example, at the moment is actually in the...
yeah, it is going to be restarted. It will be restarted at 34, so in 50 seconds from now.
Excellent stuff. Habsburg's got 2 decent lap times in there, but if we're going to get 2 full-blown laps in the rest of this session, he's going to need to improve either way. Because yes, as I said, Gunther Habsburg and Norris are the only ones who've set real laps. Yep. But can they get that momentum back to actually get into that frame?
Exactly.
We may actually see a whole bunch of laps that are quicker than Zhu in 4th place. He's got a 28.6. But will there be enough momentum for other drivers to jump into that 22.2s, 22.3s, as we see Daravala having a conversation with the marshals? The Carlin guys are not going to be awfully appreciative of that. It's a lot of work, because replacing the front wing and the suspension, yeah, it takes a little bit of time, but if you go off like that and you damage the floor, we got to take the floor off as well and fully clean the insides. the inside of the floor and where the diffuser is, and that's a lot of time-consuming work.
Right, first out is Harrison Newey. So Harrison Newey then first out as the session does restart, and the clock restarts as well. So there's going to be just 4 minutes, and that's all there's going to be left in this qualifying session. So you can see the clock at the top of the screen then, which seems for the moment to have frozen. It's called itself up now, 3:26, and for whatever reason the signal to the clock is not going terribly well at the moment, and it's actually been taken away from the screen now. So there we are, perhaps. So
we're thinking, if we've got 3 minutes left, the guys who are on the lap now will probably cross the line maybe with 2 or just over 2 minutes left in the session. So that's 2 timed laps, but you need to get it across to the start-finish line with maybe a minute 30 to a minute 35 to get in 2 laps, 2 fast laps.
Okay, we're watching the number 5 car then of Pedro Piquet, who's currently P10 as the clock does miraculously reappear at the top of the screen now. It is the qualifying session for the FIA Formula 3 Championship, which sets the grid for race 2. And the second fastest time of this qualifying session sets the grid for race 3. So across the timing line it comes, the number 5 car from Van Amersfoort Racing, the local team, if you like, based here in the Netherlands, Van Amersfoort. And Pedro Piquet then for Van Amersfoort Racing is the first of the drivers that we put the clock on now. You
don't necessarily have time now to actually to really warm up the tires, warm up the brakes, do a lot of weaving and brake testing to get them up to temperature. You actually have to go for it now.
You've got to be right on it, haven't you?
Yeah, time is tight. If it's really close, maybe Piquet could actually get 3 flying laps in, but that's going to be that's
a big ask, Lee.
Yeah, it's going to be very tight. It's touch and go. You know, that could be right to the flag if Piquet can do that, and that's going to be 3 laps absolutely on it. So we're seeing Piquet. He's actually got a green sector 1, which shows he's got a 39.2 in sector 1. It's actually a good sector for him. So it could well be a personal improvement for the guy who's 10th place at the moment with a 1:29.0. Norris we now see out on circuit. He's starting his next fast lap, as is Habsburg just ahead of him. Jake Hughes, purple sector in sector 1 is the 38.9 for the high-tech racer. This is going to be his attempt to go for fastest overall. He's been hot and cold, I think, at times this year, Jake Hughes. Inherently, he does have the speed, and he's a very good racer, but sometimes it's a mixture of him and the high-tech team don't necessarily always come together. A couple of podiums.
He's had more non-finishers than he would like, hasn't he?
Yeah, and there's a lot of element. I think there's a lot of frustration there sometimes as well, as we see Hughes now. Piquet doesn't improve, by the way. He had a 1:29.6. Well, Hughes 7th place goes up to first. There you go.
And that was, look at the final sector, very good final sector. Now here's Guan Yu Zhu, who looked very quick in the session before it was stopped. Guan Yu Zhu is currently P7. He's done personal best through sector 1 and sector 2. Here comes Guan Yu Zhu then for the Prema Power Team. Heads towards the timing beam to cut that, and Guan Yu Zhu goes from P7 to P6. He only improves 1 place because his final sector was not strong.
Gunther improved as well, sorry Dave, to P4. And we also had an improvement from Mazepin, who's now P5.
Here comes Callum Eilert then from P11. Callum Eilert goes to P1, a 1:28.161. Ferdinand Habsburg doesn't improve.
Yeah, he improves, so it just improves time, but doesn't actually improve position. But that's a good effort from Habsburg.
Lando Norris, sorry, interrupting you, has just crossed the line with a 1:28.038.
Really?
And can get another lap in. So too can Callum Eilert, of course. So Lando Norris then, although we've got a yellow flag now.
Oh, and it's...
that is, what luck he's having this weekend. The Van Amersfoort driver, David Beckman, well, that has curtailed this session now in terms of times, hasn't it? Here we can see, just gets out wide, look. Destroys that marker board, destroys the nose, breaks the track control arm. and just rests the car up against the barriers. That effectively is the end of the session, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And the front wing was already...
you can see how frustrated he is. He's had a torrid weekend of it.
The front wing was already damaged when he was went over the grass there, and that just added to it. So we have Norris on pole there with a 1 minute 28.038. Eilert P2 with a 28.1. Hughes P3 at 28.2. And Habsburg up there again at 28.343. Gunther, championship leader, only P5, another 1 minute 28.3.
And only P5 on a track which is notoriously difficult for these Formula 3 drivers to overtake on.
Yeah, and it's just, you need a...
That's going to blow before we get back to the pits, isn't it? See, it's carving a groove. Now, this is critical because of the tyre allowance, isn't it, Lee?
He's only got very few sets of tyres for the rest of the races, so he's already down one effectively.
Yeah.
So it's not just hurt his weekend in that he's finished, although he's put in P8, but he loses, and that is Makino continuing on.
Yeah, it was Makino.
Which he shouldn't do. That's actually that should actually probably get him a penalty unless he's because Beckman's actually stopped in the pit lane, which is not particularly useful for anyone. But once the checker flag once they've received a checker flag, they should actually pit straight away unless we've missed something. I
wonder whether because Beckman was so slow in the pit lane, whether Makino just felt that it would have been dangerous to go in there.
Yeah.
And I think that will, well, here we have confirmation of qualifying 2 for race 2. Then Lando Norris is P1 once again, Callum Eilert P2, Jake Hughes P3, Ferdinand Habsburg P4. Then it's Maximilian Gunter, Nikita Mazepin, Guan Yu Zhu, David Beckman, and Harrison Newey before Joel Eriksson, Ralph Aron, Jihan Daravala, Mick Schumacher, Tadasuke Makino, Pedro Piquet, Joey Mawson, Marino Sato, Kevin Andres, then, and P19 goes the way of Amaya Vadyanathan. So there we have it then, and we take super slow-mos to the top 3. Jake Hughes, first of all, for High Tech GP with a 1:28.220. Gives him P3 for race 2. P2 will go the way of the Prema Power Team driver Callum Eilert, a 1:28.161 for Callum Eilert. And Lando Norris for Carlin Motorsport once again with a stunning effort, a 1:28.038. Gives him pole position for race number 2. So there we can see the damaged David Beckman car being pushed back into the pit lane. And here then for race 3, it's going to be Lando Norris on pole, Ferdinand Habsburg P2, Leo Gorman alongside me was just trying to work it all out, and there it is on screen. Maximilian Gunter, well, it will be his best starting position for the weekend thus far, won't it? Going from P3 on the grid?
Yes, because he was 3rd row for race 1 earlier on today.
So there we have it. The grid is set then for races 2 and races 3.